Peoples, what is going on? I am Finesse, and we are here in the garage because today we are going to be working on Miss Finesse's Scout. And it comes at a great time because, as you know, the Indian Motorcycle Scout, the 2025 versions, were just released not too long ago. Now, I know you guys have seen a few videos from other content creators here on YouTube about the Scout and those things. Of course, as soon as I get my hands on one of these bikes, I will bring you guys along with me. But in celebration of that, we are going to be making some mods to Mrs. Finesse's Scout. As you can tell, or well, as you can see if you don't know already, I've already changed out the seat. We went with the 1920 seat. It has like a floating look to it. I think it's really cool. And oddly enough, this seat is more comfortable than the seat that it came with. So this right here is the seat that was on this bike from the factory. And while it's a comfortable, like the cushion, because it's such a small bike and me at 5'9", I found myself sitting more on this ridge of the seat. And I think I did that when I did the review of the bike, which I found less comfortable. Okay. However, the 1920 seat, it's wider and it doesn't have that ridge. And then the position that you're in, you're sitting up and you're sitting forward a little bit. This seat is just way more comfortable than what we were getting on this seat. It's really weird. I thought it was going to be stiff or hard or whatever the case may be, but it's really not. It's really comfortable. So what we're going to be doing today is I'm going to be swapping out the stock suspension with some adjustable suspension from Indian Motorcycle. Now, these shocks that I'm putting on, they are Fox shocks. Same brand of suspension that comes on the Challengers and the Pursuits. You got that Fox monoshock. However, this is a dual suspension setup, but it is through Fox. Now, when I was doing my research on these shocks, everybody that all the reviews that I seen where people swap these out, everybody says the Fox shocks are way better than what you're going to get straight out of the factory. So we're going to put that to the test today. So without further ado, let's get started. So these are the two shocks. I'm really excited to get these on here. I got the bike sitting here, and as you can see, I do not have a lift. All right. And we're going to have to get this back wheel up off the ground. So I do have a floor jack though. So we got the floor jack under there. I'll show you that here in a second. But up front, I've got the wheel on a wheel chalk that I use inside my trailer. But I brought it out here so I could stand the bike up. So what I did was, after I got the bike on the chalk up underneath it here, I put a wood block on the base of the bike. All right, so now that I have this jack underneath the bike, all I have to do is raise it up. And we're just going to raise it up just enough in order to get the rear wheel off the ground. All right, I think that's it. Let's see. Yep, we are rolling. All right, y'all. While I'm finishing up the work on the Scout, and I'll get into that here in a minute, but I wanted to talk to you guys about a few things. So, if you remember some time ago, I was talking about a report on motorcycle.com about the new generation of chieftains and the pursuits and challengers, so on and so forth. Everybody's got all this talk about the 112 and what options and things that are going to be going on. Now, again, like I said, I don't know any of this for fact. However, since we've got the new Scout lineup, and that lineup is a 2025, and we have not seen the Chieftain Elite or the Pursuit Elite. So in my mind, I'm thinking that this is going to be the 2025 Pursuit and the 2025 Chieftain. And like it had in that motorcycle.com report, there's going to be options for the 112, or maybe the Pursuit is going to come with the 112. So I'm hoping that that is the case. Maybe they're going to do like a soft redesign or a refresh for the 2025s with either the Chieftain, and the Pursuit, and then later on that'll filter down into the Challenger models, so on and so forth. So, I mean, I'm really excited to see what's going to happen coming up. I mean, I'm at the edge of my seat, sitting here just waiting to see what's coming out. All right, now, since I had my little rant, let's talk about the 2025 Scout. All right. Now, when the news came out that it was the Scout, in my mind, I already had a few things that I would think that they would automatically do. One was the ride command, and two was maybe a little bit more power. And lo and behold, we got them both. All right. So let's talk about these bikes. All right. So before we get started, I know you see this stuff back here. Look, it's spring. Okay. There's a lot going on, and I'm running out of space. All right. So disclaimers all out of the way. Let's get into the 2025 Scout. Now, maybe you already know, maybe you don't know, but the Indian Motorcycle Scout is the best-selling bike that Indian Motorcycle has. And there's a whole bunch of reasons as to why. But what's the takeaway with that is that there's going to be a lot of different options for you. Okay, so there is going to be 5 models for 2025. All right, for those models, you're going to have 3 different trims. Okay, and within those 4 models, 3 different trims, you're going to have 3 different packages for them as well. All right, so whatever bike you choose, you're going to have a multitude of options to customize that bike for whatever, how you want it to look or what purpose you need the bike for. Okay. So for the purpose of this video, I'm just going to list these bikes from the lowest to the highest. All right. So coming in at the lowest price, you're going to have the Scout Bobber, and that's going to be $12,999. All these prices are going to be MSRP. Next up, you're going to have the Sport Scout, which was previously the Scout Rogue. So we got a little name change there. And that's going to come in at $13,499. After that, you're going to have the Scout Classic. That's going to come in at $13,999. Up next, you're going to have the Super Scout. All right. So when you think Super Scout, think of Super Chief. All right. So you're going to have saddlebags and windshield. And so they're going to have that similarity with them. All right. So that motorcycle is going to come in at $16,499. And then last but not least, you're going to have the 101 Scout. And that's going to come in at $16,999. All right. Now, for the 4 models of the Scout outside of the 101 Scout, these options that I'm going to talk about right here are going to apply to all of them. All right. But I'm going to be using the Scout Bobber as my example. Okay. All right. So like I was saying, with these Scout models, the 4 Scout models, you are going to have 3 different trims. All right. So you're going to have a standard, a limited, and then a limited with tech. All right. So for the standard versions of the motorcycles, you're going to have analog gauge. And for 2025, they added a fuel gauge, okay? Because previous years, you never had a fuel gauge, you had a light. So when that light came on, I can't remember how many miles you had left, maybe 20 or 30 or something like that. But whenever I see the light, I go get fuel. But for 2025, you've got a fuel gauge, so that's cool. Also for 2025, all Scouts are going to come with ABS, all right? And with it being the standard model, you're still going to have a key, like a physical key, that you're going to put in the motorcycle. All right. Now, when you bump up to the limited trim is going to add cruise control. It's going to add traction control. You're also going to get ride modes. So you're going to have sport, standard, and tour. And I believe you're still going to have a key with this version of the motorcycle. Um, but I couldn't find anything on there that said it had a key. But I absolutely couldn't find anything that said it had the keyless. So I'm going to go ahead and put it out on the limb and say that it has a key. All right. Once you go all the way up to the limited with the tech, this is where you're going to now have, in addition to those items from the standard, from the limited, now you're also going to add the 4-inch ride command system. That is a fantastic system. There's so much packed into that little 4-inch screen, and the information that it shows you is just clear. It's easy, great interface. I'm curious to know as if it was maybe updated. You know, we'll see once I get my hands on the bike. But you're going to have, of course, you're going to have all your ride modes. You're going to have navigation. You're going to have Bluetooth control. So if you have a head unit on your bike, you know, you'll be able to control your phone from there. You're also going to have a USB charging port. But you also have a USB charging port on the limited version. I don't know if the standard version is going to have that or not. But the limited and the limited with tech for sure have the USB port. Okay. After you got your bike, now you picked your trim. Now there's packages that you can get with your bikes as well. Okay, and there's 3 different versions. You have the commuter, you have the overnighter, and then you have the stealth. All right, those are your 3 different options, and you know I'll have it here on the screen. So really a lot of ways to configure these motorcycles to fit the needs or fit your needs. And of course, you don't have to get the package. You can get these individually, you know, for your motorcycle or however your budget allows. However, you know, if you're looking for a specific package, you know, you can just ask or you can just add that package to your bike. All right. Now, along with the new Scout for 2025, they also redid the frame. So the bike has a new frame. It has new fenders. I want to say the only fender that is the same may be the front fender, like for the bobbers. I don't know that I don't know that everything changed. I want to say the rear fender, the frame, the fuel tank. You have a larger fuel tank as well, so that changed. So I mean, it really is a new Scout. They also changed the engine. So the exterior of the engine has a slimmer look to it. There's not a lot going on. They kind of smoothed it out. They also redid the internals. If I can get some information on the internals, or if I can find somebody that can describe exactly what's going on for those that are curious, then I'll find that information out. But new internals, new exterior look for the engine. And the engine now has a name. Previous years did not have a name. This one is the Speed Plus. All right. It's going to be a 1250cc engine. And the outgoing Scouts, right? You had 2 different engine options, right? You had a 5-speed with about 85 or 86 horsepower. And then you had the 6-speed with 100 horsepower, right? So for 2025, the Scout engine with that 1250cc, you're now going to have 105 horsepower, and that 105 horsepower is going to get you 82 foot-pounds of torque. All right. So, and the interesting thing about the Scout engines, the torque curve. the torque curve is, once you get to a point, it just flattens out. After that, the bike just keeps pulling. And I want to say this one red lines at about 6,200 RPM, something like that. Um, so once you get into that once you get into the torque and it flattens out and you're going through the gears, I mean the bike just pulls. It really is it's a fun engine. So I know with the extra 5 horsepower, like it's going to be great. I cannot wait to get on this bike. All right, now in running order, the Scout, the 2025 Scout is going to come in at 542 pounds. Your seat height is going to be about 25.6. And like I said earlier, you're going to have a larger fuel tank at 3.4 gallons. And they also added a 2-to-1 exhaust. Okay. Previous years, the outgoing model, that was an upgrade that you could put on the bike. But this year, all the Scouts are coming standard with a 2-to-1. And I can only imagine what that engine is going to sound like when you put some slip-ons on it. Ooh wee! My goodness! All right. Before I get too sidetracked, um, for the Scout models, you're going to have with the standard Scout, it's going to come in one color, which is going to be the black metallic, and we're talking about the Scout Bobber here. For the limited, it's going to have black metallic, black smoke, and sunset red smoke. All right. The limited with tech, you're going to have black metallic and black metallic smoke. You're going to have a Nara bronze metallic. So the interesting thing about this bronze metallic, there's going to be some graphics on the fuel tank. And if you look closely, it kind of looks like it'd be like stars and stripes, which is what I thought of when I first seen it. However, when you get a little closer, you can see that those dots, they're not stars or anything. Those are the Indian motorcycle logo, just all blacked out. Kind of like what they did on the 23 Challenger Elite, where they had those the logo in the stripe. So these are on the fuel tank. They have a bunch of them on there, and then below that there's a couple of stripes. Really cool looking, and that bronze metallic is just a wild color. Okay, and then of course you're gonna have a Spirit Blue metallic, and also a Sunset Red smoke. Um, so the higher in trim you go, or excuse me, the higher in trim you go, the more colors you're gonna get. All right. All right. Before we get into the 101 Scout, I want to back you guys up, just to give you a little bit of history, just to give you a little bit of information on why this motorcycle is so important to the Indian motorcycle brand. So, back in October of 1919, Charles Franklin had designed the Indian motorcycle Scout. And, it was just something to be a bit more nimble, something a little more user friendly than what you would find on the Chief. All right. And when the Scout came out, everybody loved the Scout. It was perfect for the small rides. People were racing them. People were doing shows with them. All sorts of things. Everybody loved this bike. Okay. And the bike was so successful. And if you know any designers, a designer's job is never done. Okay. And with that, Charles Franklin decided to go back to the drawing board to create a better version of the Scout. All right. Now, this was despite everybody at the time saying that there's no way that you're going to be able to improve the Scout. The Scout is already, I mean, it's almost perfect. You can't improve on perfection. All right. But clearly, Charles Franklin didn't think that was a real thing. In mid 1928, Charles Franklin debuted the new Scout 101. This model was lower, it was a little bit longer, and they changed the rake of the bike. And by doing these things, it just made the bike just much more comfortable than what people were used to. The motorcycle, as people described it at the time, They were saying this was the best motorcycle ever made by an enthusiast, and everybody that thought that you could not improve on perfection, um, this was the swan song of Charles Franklin. The 101, the 101 Scout was just an amazing motorcycle for its time, and everybody was just loving it. They were all over this bike. It was just a pivotal moment for Indian Motorcycle and the bikes that they were producing. All right, so um, during the time of the Scout 101, which ran from 1928 to 1931, there were two models that were made. The standard one, that motorcycle had the longer wheelbase. And then they also made a motorcycle for the police, and that bike had a shorter wheelbase. So it was a more maneuverable machine, and the cops can do what cops do. When they're maneuvering through traffic and doing all sorts of things like that. All right, so they gave them a shorter wheelbase. When Indian Motorcycle debuted, or when they were talking about the 101, they were talking about uh, legends and icons and things of that nature. And that immediately got me thinking, right? Because Burt Monroe, he was on an Indian Motorcycle Scout when he set a land speed record for that tier of motorcycles. So his Scout, he went 178.95 miles per hour or 288 kilometers per hour. That is amazing. And obviously, that was a heavily modified version of the Scout, but it was still an Indian Motorcycle Scout. And to go that fast, that long ago, wow. Okay, man. All right, now um, moving on to the modern day 101. So again, we've made some changes to the Scout, right? So some people may have thought that the Scout was a great bike. It's affordable, it's small, it's easy to maneuver. Now they're making it even better, okay? Um, and again, when the 101 came out way back when, they debuted a new frame, which made the bike longer than what it was. I don't know if this new frame on the Scouts this year, uh, made it any longer. I think they're the same size. However, you still have a new frame, you have a new engine, you have new tins all over the bike, which is going to make it, just part of that 101 family. It's the new generation of Scouts. Okay, so that's what you're tapping into when you get this 101. All right. And again, you're going to have the same 1250cc engine that you find on the other Scouts. However, this one has been tuned up a little bit. So instead of 105 horsepower, you're going to have 111 horsepower. All right. The 101 is going to be 549 pounds running order. The seat height is going to be 26.7 inches. That's going to be a little taller. It's slightly taller, but that's because of the suspension. That is because of the suspension. All right. So the suspension, you're going to have adjustable piggyback shocks in the rear. They got that gold anodized color to them. They look really good. Up front, you're going to have adjustable inverted forks for the front. So you got adjustable on the rear and adjustable on the front. This is a Scout. Okay, we're talking about a Scout. It's got adjustable suspension front and rear. Beautiful. All right. You're going to get it in two different colors. You're going to get the sunset red metallic with the graphics, which is the one that the one that everybody shows. But there's also another color, which is the ghost white metallic with the graphics. Um, and the me personally, I think the ghost white looks better. I know the red is for because the Indian Motorcycle red. I understand why why that was the flagship. However, looking when I saw the ghost white, I was like, oh man, that is just gorgeous. Okay, but anyways, moving on with the things that you're getting. So now you're getting on a Scout, you're getting dual disc front brakes. Of course, they're Brembo brakes, right? Um, so you got that extra speed, you got that extra power. You're gonna have some. You need some more stopping power. So you get the dual disc front brakes as well as the single disc in the rear. This motorcycle is going to have that quarter fairing similar to what you see on the Rogue, right? And you're also going to have 6-inch risers along with the moto style handlebars. So as soon as I can, as soon as I can, I can get some hands on these bikes. Of course, I'm gonna do a video for you guys. Hopefully, I can get this done before the bikes are sold, so I can so I can actually see them and show it to you. I'm really excited to see what these are coming. I'm really excited to see what these bikes are going to be, how they're going to ride, how they're going to feel, how they're going to look, how they're going to sound, just everything, man. I'm loving this right now. All right, so I've talked about the Scout lineup. We talked about the 101 Scout. And like I said, with Miss Vanessa's Scout, we did some upgrades to it in celebration of the new Scout models. Um, One, because the seat that we have on here on Indian Motorcycles website, it's no longer available. Now, I don't know if that's going to be like they're not doing the seat anymore. Maybe it's not compatible with the new bike. I don't know. And then we also upgraded the suspension. Now, this suspension setup should apply to the 2025s if you want to do this because it's the same setup. Now that's all going to depend on where the frame mounts with the suspension. So assuming that it mounts in the same place, these shocks should be able to go on to the 2025 Scouts. All right. And before I show you that, I got some stuff here on the table. These are the old shocks that came off. And for the most part, you're not going to need any special tools, really. Okay. However, you will need a torque wrench because the instructions on here, I want to say it says it's 65 foot-pounds of torque plus or minus 5. So I just set my torque wrench at 70, and that's what I tighten those down to. So other than that, other than a torque wrench, you're not going to need any kind of specialized tools. All right, this was super simple. It took no time at all. All right, so let me get this table out of the way and let's look at this bike. All right, so um, when you change the suspension, this Fox shocks on the for the Scout models, it's going to raise the suspension up. I want to say it's like 2 inches. All right, from what it is stock, because you can see right here on the back of the wheel that the gap, this gap right here, that's a pretty large gap. But I'm trying to talk Miss Finesse into letting me do some modifications to this, which would eliminate that rear fender. So more to come on that. All right. Um, Now, when we're looking at this shock, you're going to have a rebound adjustment right here. So there's a total of 24 settings. All right. From the factory, it comes at setting 12. All right, and you increase clockwise, counterclockwise. All right. So obviously, for either side, when you set it, you're going to have to set both of them to the same thing. But they do both start out at 12, and they go clockwise is more, counterclockwise is less. All right. You also have your suspension length here. All right, so another thing, an important note for the suspension, once you have these installed, you're going to want to measure the length of the spring on either side to make sure that they match. All right. So you need to match the adjustments here as well as the spring length here. All right. That's going to be important for your settings. All right. But pretty simple install. On the right side where you have the exhaust, this top exhaust does need to come off. What you're going to do is there's this bolt back here, and then there's this bolt here. All you got to do is take those two off, and that's going to disconnect this top pipe, and then you slide that off. That's assuming you still have those. If you got those that come down right here, then you don't have to worry about it. But if you're still running the stock exhaust, or if you have the Tab Performance exhaust like I have, then you're going to need to remove those two bolts in order to get this bolt out from the factory and this bolt back in. All right. All right, so the only thing left to do is to test ride the bike. It's now night. I think it's like 9, 10 o'clock. So we're going to have to wait until tomorrow because this exhaust on this bike is going to wake everybody up if I turn it on. So we'll get back to this in the morning and hey, we'll take it for a spin. All right, everybody. I just got off the ride on the Scout with the seat and the suspension. And I wanted, like, I literally just got off the bike, but I wanted to let you guys know. Well, one, I didn't get any video of me on the bike, but what I will tell you, I like just like back in the 1920s, when they talking about, you can't improve on a bike that is nearly perfect. Okay, and for me, at 5'9", the bike felt a little small, a little short. And now that I've added the suspension, it raised the bike up about 2 inches. And the seat has enough room for me to actually fit on this bike. And also changing out the bars too, because these bars are taller than the standard bars that come on here. And I'm here to tell you, in this configuration, this bike is nearly perfect. And I wish I was just making this stuff up, but the excitement that I'm feeling right now is just, I'm over the moon with it. I plan on riding this bike a little bit more than what I have been in the past, just because now I think I fit a little bit better. And Mrs. Finesse, she has sat on the bike, so she can, she's still flat foots, and she said it's still comfortable. But I can tell you right now, this configuration is amazing. And now that I'm kind of re-energized about this bike, I'm really excited to see what the 101 is going to be, or even not even the 101, just the 25, Scout lineup, because this bike is so much fun, so much fun. And I tell myself all the time, this being a smaller bike, this isn't something that I think that I would like if it was my only bike. But as this being a second bike, man, this thing is so much fun. All right, look, I done said so much fun a few times. So we're going to go ahead and stop it there.